Hey everybody, welcome to TPG Reviews. Today I want to talk about American Crime Story, the assassination of Versace. And I'm sorry to get to do last week, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to combine the week before and this week's together. So basically the week before, it dealt mostly with Andrew Cunanan and his murder of Lee Miglin. Lee Miglin was a huge real estate developer in Chicago, and one night Lee Miglin is out with his wife, and he wins an award and all this stuff, and he ends up getting a call from he goes home and they're all happy, and the wife tells her how much she loves him and stuff, and he gets a call in the middle of the night from Andrew Cunanan, who tells him he's visiting and he would like to see him. Well, unfortunately, the guy's wife's going out of town, so he thinks, I'm going to have this, pretty boy over here, this pretty escort boy and everything. So he invites Andrew Cunanan over, and Andrew Cunanan basically, so you start to see the craziness in him. At one point he pulls a gun, but the guy doesn't see it. He's showing Andrew Cunanan his plans to build a building and stuff like that. And basically Andrew tells him, I'm not like any other escort, blah, blah, blah. And it ends up with him killing Lee Miglin. He basically takes him out, he ties him up, takes him outside into his garage. He basically smashes his face in. Just very violent murder. He really was violent killing this man. And at the end, he surrounds his body with gay porn magazines and bondage stuff. It was very bizarre. And then he ends up spending the night in the home, eating a ham sandwich, taking a bath, shaving, all this stuff in the man's home, and then steals his Lexus. So that's where that leaves off. This new one goes even further than that, because it goes back a little bit further, because what they're doing is they're taking you backwards through Andrew Cunanan's life, and this deals with the murder of two other men. Their name is Jeffrey and David. And basically Jeffrey was played by Finn Wittrock, who I love Finn Wittrock. He's an amazing actor. He was a former military man. He played Jeff Trail, and he was a former military man. And he had, I guess, been Cunanan's lover, and he is coming to see the man that Cunanan is currently living with, whose name is David. I'll say David Edmondson, maybe? David Edmondson, and who he's living with. And they've just broken up, and he tries to patch it up, but Cunanan's like, I don't regret what I said, blah, blah, blah. And the guy has a dog, and every time he leaves the room, Cunanan ties the dog up, which I thought was really bizarre. Like Cunanan was really out there. So he tells him that Jeffrey is coming over to visit, and he needs to open the door. And they lived in this house, where you ring the bell to go up, but theirs didn't work, so he had to actually walk down. And he tells David, he says, this way you and Jeffrey can talk about me on the way up. So David kind of goes, okay, whatever, and goes upstairs, goes down to get Jeffrey, and they're walking along, or get Jeff, and they're walking and they're talking, and of course they are talking about Cunanan, saying how, Jeff Trail's done with him, and David needs to get away from him, and he says, well, he's only staying with me for the weekend, because apparently he was just visiting for the weekend. He just showed up at their house because they had moved away from San Francisco, which is where Cunanan had lived with Jeff before. When they get in the house, he notices his dog tied up. He walks to get him, and Cunanan attacks Jeff with a hammer, and physically, y'all, he beats this man to death with a hammer. I mean, there was hardly anything recognizable. David then starts freaking out. Cunanan then gets this idea about how he's going to he says, David, this is your house. They're going to believe you did it. You're guilty, blah, blah, blah. David said, no, I'm not. David kept trying to get him to call the police. Cunanan goes and hugs him. He puts him in the bathroom. He's trying to hug him, kiss him, puts him in the shower, washes all the blood off of him. Just this craziness, crazy insanity, cuckoo stuff, y'all. Cuckoo. So anyway, he then, convinced him. So basically they decide to run from the police. So he takes the body, wraps it up. Cunanan takes the body, wraps it up, and he basically kidnaps David and takes David in David's car, the car to. They're going to run away to Mexico, and you see throughout the time that David is petrified. Well, in the meantime, the cops come in, and they believe that David has committed this murder, not Cunanan, that him and Cunanan have committed this murder because David is missing. So basically, they spend the night in a hotel, and Cunanan is just so in love with him. He's just wanting, he just wanted to be loved. And David, basically, they go to a restaurant, and David tells him how he doesn't want this, and he knows that he's got to call the police, and blah, blah, blah. So Cunanan goes cuckoo and takes him out in this road, and basically shoots him in cold blood, shoots him in the back. The guy falls over, and he just shoots him in the head and kills him. And that's basically that's exactly what happened in real life, and then he steals his car, and he decides to go on to Florida, which is where he went and killed Versace. which they've already shown. So basically, what I like about this American Crime Story is they're going backwards. It's kind of weird because I think the most famous thing that Andrew Cunanan did was was the murder and the assassination of Versace. So in order to do a story about Andrew Cunanan, I think they had to start with the most famous murder of all, which was the murder of Versace. So that's what they did. So they're kind of going backwards, which throws a little wrench in it because things get a little outdated. Like I forgot one thing in the previous episode, you also see him take the Lexus to a place and he wants this truck. So he kind of stalks this guy who works in a graveyard, and he goes in and tells the guy, basically, I want your truck. The guy's like, my keys are there. He makes the guy go down. The guy begs for his life, and Andrew Cunanan shoots him. So he was basically just an innocent bystander. Andrew Cunanan steals his truck, and that's how he gets to where he's going next, at that. But in this episode before, you hear him telling David about how they're going to see his friend Lee Miglin, who lives in Chicago. So, he basically had stole David's truck, drove David's truck to Lee Miglin's house, or not David's, drove the big car to their house, killed Lee Miglin, stole his Lexus, then went and killed the guy in the graveyard, he was the groundskeeper for the cemetery, killed him. And then he drove his truck to Florida, which is what he was driving at the time he killed Versace. And he would change the plates and stuff like that. So it's really bizarre. It's really eerie. It's so well written sometimes, and it's so well acted. And I think Darren Criss, again, I'm going to have to praise him. He's doing such a good job. Seeing him as Blaine on Glee, where he was all like happy and go lucky and blah, blah. But in this one, he was very, very crazy, and you really see Darren Criss as an actor, and I really am respecting his portrayal of Cunanan. He looks just like Andrew Cunanan, too, which is very scary. And the casting of some of the people that they've done looks so much like him. In some ways, it's really, really bizarre. I don't necessarily think the guys they chose to play David and Jeff look exactly like him, and the guy that plays Lee Miglin wasn't anything like Lee Miglin. So those parts, but like Versace, some of the characters do look so much like him. But basically, it is a well-written show. I'm really enjoying it. I'm really excited about seeing it again this week and see what happens and what all leads to Andrew Cunanan. I now understand what's made him go crazy. I believe that he wanted to be loved, and he wanted to be accepted, and he wanted to be famous, and he was so wrapped up in that lifestyle that he just became delusional. And I think somewhere down the line, maybe after Jeff broke up with him or whatever, he snapped. And this week is supposed to cover his relationship with Jeff, which goes even further before he kills anybody. So we can maybe see what really went into this relationship, if Jeff really was like his true love or something and caused him to snap or whatever. In his mind, he thought Jeff and David were having an affair, which they were. So I think that so many factors went into it. So I'm really excited about seeing this. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching my review on American Crime Story, The Murder of Versace. I hope that you're watching it, because if you're not, it's awesome. Check it out on FX. It's written by Ryan Murphy. Great writing from Ryan Murphy, as always. Remember to click the red button down below. Also, make sure you comment and that you hit the thumbs up button. And, of course, the thumbs down, because there are a few of you that do that if you hate it. Make sure you ring that bell. Also, make sure you check out my merchandise in the link below. All right, guys, stay tuned this week for a new review of American Crime Story, The Murder of Versace. Bye.